There are cars in the market that people say one day it'll have its day. Despite this car having been made in 1985 and a production run that ended in 1995, the 928 has never been one of those cars yet. It has perennially been good value for money, or at least it appears that way. That's probably why you're here, because you think, for $12,000 or so I can get in to 928 ownership. The irony that this was the car that was designed to replace the Porsche 911, and those values go up and up and up. I mean, it was the first car that Porsche ever designed by themselves, and we know where the 911 came from, don't we? It was the European Car of the Year in 1978. It had a mold-breaking V8 engine and the looks to match. And now you can buy one for just $12,000. That's what I paid for this car. The question, however, is, should you? So let's take a look at the Porsche 928 then, look at all the pros and cons, and see if it genuinely is affordable and a car that you can live with. Here's my first pro then, the looks. Even when I park this car in a sea of modern cars, this stands out, and not in an outdated, old car way. No. This is still a relevant, modern-looking design that, frankly, makes you take another look at it as you walk away. It's no wonder, then, that this model stayed in production long after they decided not to cancel the Porsche 911 and replace it with this. It carried on in an 18-year production run where the looks never went out of fashion. It only had one refresh in its entire production run. Yes, if I had my time again, I'd buy another one just because of its looks. And even if it didn't work, it could sit on my lawn just for me to look at. Pro number 2, the comfort. You've come to my house, Ryan Reynolds. Yep. We'll do it right now. I'm proud to be partnering with Mint Mobile for this video. You might already know Mint Mobile if you've seen those funny ads from Ryan Reynolds, who is also an owner. But let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed or data. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Click the link in my description or scan the QR code above if you're interested in the best value in wireless. As an extra special offer for my channel, if you sign up before 14th of July using my link or use my QR code here, you can get their unlimited plan, which is normally $30 a month, for just $15 a month. That's a 50% saving off their already super low price. It only takes 15 minutes to pay as low as $15 a month for your phone plan. It really is that simple. Now back to our second positive thing to say about the Porsche 928. The second pro then, without interruption this time. This car has leather everything and it has electric everything. Even the ceiling is leather and electric. The seats are sporty enough without being overly bolstered, and they're super comfortable for long journeys. Yes, the rear seats, unless you're Douglas Bader, are pretty much useless. If you're Douglas Bader and you've got no legs, this is perfect for you in the back here. But with the seats down in the back, I would say you've got space for 2 adult corpses and a golf bag. So we're really setting this up for Grand Tourer credentials, aren't we? Pro number 3 then, and it's the engine. This 4.7 litre V8 engine puts out 310 bhp and has no problem in keeping up with modern traffic. This is a bit of a rare car in that it is a Euro car and it has the twin distributors. So look for a post-85 car here in the US, those with the 32 valve 5 litre engines, which put out nearly as much as this, 288 horsepower. Prior to that, you're really looking at 234 horsepower, and especially if you get it linked up to the 3-speed automatic, it's choked out a little bit. So be careful about that. Economy, well, ain't nobody got time for that. Our next pro then, the way it drives. This is not a 911 where you go into a corner fast, power out. This is very much a Grand Tourer. It doesn't like to be rushed, but neither is it that unsporty either. It does in fact have passive rear steering. Oh yes, A car that was designed in 1977 and launched then has passive rear steering. Look up, the Weissach axle, which is what this car has. So this is really set up for comfortable long-term cruising, long ride cruising, which is where it really excels. But if you need to hurry it through a bend, fine, no problem at all. The seats, as I said earlier, are super comfortable. You could go a very long distance in this, and at quite some speed as well. Number 5 is just the availability of parts. As I said to you in other videos which have been sponsored by 928s R Us, the availability of parts is really good. And the advice, there's no shortage of advice either on the internet or using people like Roger Tyson at 928s R Us. He's a very helpful man, and he will give you some of his time if you want to know what's wrong with it. So I would say availability of parts, not really a problem. Which is just as well, because you're going to need parts. There's that old adage that if you can afford a $150,000 car, then you should be able to afford a $150,000 car maintenance. And that's certainly the issue with these cars. These cars were, in fact, around that price when they were new in today's money. The youngest of these cars is 28 years old. It's not that they were built unreliably, they weren't. It's just that, in fact, they've been almost too cheap to buy, because it doesn't take very long, honestly, that as soon as you start working on them, you accrue almost as much as the value of the car in maintenance costs, which is a good motivator to not do any maintenance on them and run them into the ground. That was a little bit of the case with this car. In fact, it was quite a lot of the case with this car. And you'll see in my earlier video, which I've linked up above, how much that has cost me so far. These cars are complicated, high-end machines that require some investment to keep going. The timing belt is one of the longest timing belts there has ever been in a car and requires replacement every 5 years. Water pumps too follow the same maintenance schedule. The electrical system too is old and complicated. On this particular car, pretty much nothing works. The cruise control, the heater blower, the rear wiper, the electric leather roof, none of it works. I suspect that it's down to dirty grounds, but these are the things that you've got to look into, and it takes time to fish all these out and gives you the impression of money pit, even if some of these are rather simple to tackle. So our next con then, and that would be the automatic gearbox. A lot of people will tell you, buy a manual, and they're right. Now you know that on this channel I'm no stranger to automatic gearboxes. I had one on my 911, just a Tiptronic, none of the fancy PDK business, and it was great, to be honest. This one, however, it's a bit of a slushmatic. It's a Mercedes unit, so it's pretty bomb-proof, although this one again has not had its maintenance in this particular car, and it slips a little when it's cold. When it's warm, it works just fine, but it doesn't like to be rushed, and it's only a 4-speed gearbox. I say only. The earlier cars, in fact the really early cars, the majority of them were manual gearboxes, whereas the automatic gearbox wasn't quite so prevalent in the early cars, which is just as well because there were only 3-speed gearboxes. In the later cars, which is what this has, is the Mercedes 4-speed unit. But if I had my time again, I would choose a manual. I think it suits the car, plus I think it would make it a lot more responsive and a lot more fun to drive. So there's a few specific pros and cons of Porsche 928 ownership. I hope it was helpful. It's not designed to be completely exhaustive, but give you a guide to the major points of pluses and minuses of 928 ownership. If I had my druthers, would I have another one? Would I have bought it again in the first place? Yes, absolutely I would. I love the way it makes me feel, even though I've spent rather a large amount of money on it, but probably not too much. Yes, I'd absolutely do it again. It is a car that is not without its faults, and it's not straightforward. You can work on these yourself until it gets a bit complicated, then I get a mechanic to do it. I did change, for example, the automatic transmission fluid on this car. Most normal cars, you'd lift the hood up and there would be a filler neck where you could put in some new ATF. On this car, no, it's underneath the car. You need to get a pump and a length of tube to get the old fluid out and put some new stuff in. It just gives you an idea of one of the quirks of this car. but it's the quirks of the car that make it. It is a quirky car. It's a 1970s designed car that they made for 18 years, and that's why I love it. It looks like a spaceship, it sounds like a lion roaring, and it makes me feel great, and I'd absolutely have another one. Next time you're considering a mobile phone purchase, please remember Mint. The QR code is on the screen now, and there's a link in the video description. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have and you want to see more about this car and what I've done to it, watch the playlist. Again, there's a link up above for you to click on and enjoy, and you'll see how I've taken this car from something pretty ratty to something that is now usable every day. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Please give a guy a like and subscribe if this is your bag, and I'll see you in the next one.